All right, everyone. Setting up all of the cameras. Perfect. All right, so tonight I'm doing my talk, Cracking the Codes on Diets. I know this time of year is super popular for everyone to start doing diets. You know, it's a new year, new you. I really recommend, first of all, figuring out what works best for you. And that's why I really wanted to do this talk, to present these different common, more lifestyle diets. And so you can learn about them, what they all involve, the pros, the cons of them, the general guidelines, and then you can figure out what works best for you, because that's something you're going to be able to stick with, and that's something that's going to make an impact in your life. So you can type in any questions in the comment sections as the talk is going on, and I'll answer them all at the end. So we'll get started. I'm going to talk about the Mediterranean diet, the Paleo diet, Keto diet, a juicing diet, and a vegan vegetarian diet. So I'll start with the Mediterranean diet. It was actually rated the best overall diet in 2019 by the U.S. News and World Report, which is really cool because it's been around for a while. It all started when people noticed that people from the Mediterranean area, specifically Greece and southern Italy, have really long life expectancies, and they wanted to have long life expectancies too, so they started looking into what they eat. Basic guidelines of it is mainly plant-based. There are some lean meats, mostly fish. When it comes to oils, they mostly use extra virgin olive oil or regular olive oil. If they are going to do any cooking in oil, which is rare, they tend to use more canola oil. They don't really use butter or anything like that. And they also emphasize on legumes, so beans and stuff like that, and nuts. So those are the main foods that are involved with the Mediterranean diet. They also like to use a lot of spices and herbs instead of using salt to make the food more flavorful. One of the things that people struggle with the Mediterranean diet, but I think is a huge pro to it, is that it really limits the amount of red meat. Red meat carries so many different things in it, and they really limit the red meat, and they suggest replacing it with poultry and mostly fish. And something fun about the Mediterranean diet is that they recommend that you have 1 glass of red wine every day, about 5 ounces for women and 10 ounces for men. And then obviously also add in exercise. So this one specifically talks about a lot about lowering oxidized LDLs, which you're like, what is that? So that's the bad cholesterol. You know, we talk about how we have cholesterol. You don't want too much, but there's also a good and a bad cholesterol. Oxidized LDLs are the bad cholesterol that lead to lots of heart disease. So the Mediterranean diet is known to be really great in lowering the amount of oxidized LDLs in your body. So therefore, it does help with prevent heart disease. It also decreases the incidence of cancer, Alzheimer's, and Parkinson's, which is pretty cool. Some of the cons for it is that it can be hard to get good quality fish for the amount of fish that you have to be eating. We're very lucky up here that we have a plentiful source, but a lot of the fish that are around here don't tend to be the fatty fish that this diet is specifically talking about. And also, I think that it's just harder for people to adapt to taste-wise here. I mean, I really like the food, but not everybody does. I think that not having any dairy and salt tends to be a challenge, but is a great challenge for people to put on themselves and their families, because it really doesn't help your health any and really just declines it. So the next one I'm going to do is the paleo diet. This all started, you know, looking at the basic hunter-gatherer diets way back in the Paleolithic era. It was like 10,000 to 2.5 million years ago. So what they ate, beginning of humans. So this is lean meat, fish, fruits, vegetables, nuts, and seeds. That's it. Nothing else. So the key with the meat and this one is it has to be grass-fed or wild-caught. And that tends to be challenging for some people and for some people to find. But it's super important when on the paleo diet that you're looking for these types of foods. The fish, again, emphasis on the fatty fishes, so salmon, mackerel, tuna, and the only oils that really you would use on the paleo diet are any oils that can be extracted from any fruits or nuts. So yes, this means no grains at all, versus kind of sounds like the Mediterranean diet, which you can have whole grains in. You know, they do like bread in the Mediterranean area. So you can have bread, but it has to be whole grain bread, versus the paleo diet, no grains at all. No legumes, no dairy, no refined sugar, no salt, no potatoes, and no highly processed foods. So you can tell that everything is really natural. Remember, this is hunter-gatherer style, so nothing that's been processed is part of the paleo diet. You know, it's really good for weight loss and better glucose tolerance, as well as blood pressure control. It lowers your triglycerides, which is part of those bad fats that run around in your blood, and it helps with your appetite management. One of the cons of it is hard to get grass-fed meat these days. And so people are like, I'm on the paleo diet, but I'm going to just substitute this meat anyways. But that doesn't really work when you're trying to do it as a specific diet. So the quality of food is not the quality of food it was in the Paleolithic era, because everything's been so mass produced. So the paleo diet is hard to replicate nowadays. The next one I'm going to talk about is the keto diet. Super popular. We hear about it all the time. My mom just sent me a cool article about, you know, all the top health questions that are asked on Google, and the number one question was, what is the paleo or the keto diet? So it's interesting that I had chosen to talk about it tonight. So ketosis is when your body goes into a mode of burning fat for energy instead of burning carbohydrates. Typically, our body loves to burn carbohydrates, so we eat food, it gives us energy, and our body uses that energy to then do things. But what you do in the keto diet is you limit the carbs so much that your body starts burning fat for energy. So it burns the fat that you eat, and it burns the fat from your body, which is why it's so great for weight loss. You know, ketones can really help power everything, your brain, your organs, your cells, and it's more of a sustained equal energy versus carbohydrates are made of sugar, so they tend to cause spiking energies. So 75% of your daily calories comes from fats, which is very different for a lot of people, and it can be hard for some people to do. So fats such as oils and fatty cuts of meat, only 5% should be carbohydrates. You actually need to have less than 50 grams of carbs every day, and only 20% from protein. So a lot of people are like, keto diet's the same as the Atkins diet. Well, it's very similar, but the biggest difference between them is the Atkins diet is a high-fat, high-protein diet, versus the keto diet is not a high-protein diet. It is only a high-fat, low-carb diet. And this is because you want your body to start burning the fat. And if you eat enough protein, it will actually cause your body to turn the proteins into carbohydrates, and then your body will use that. It's totally safe for you to do long term, but a lot of people kind of go back and forth on it, almost use it as a detox. It really helps regulate hormone production. While doing extra research for this talk, I saw lots of talk of people doing it for PCOS treatment for increasing fertility, which is pretty cool because they've had a lot of success with that. It helps normalize your blood sugar. It helps improve cognitive function and your digestive health. It can decrease risk for disease. And it has the ability to help you gain muscle, because there was a long time people were saying if you're not having enough protein, then you can't gain muscle, and therefore if you're exercising, it kind of backfires. And they have found that that is not actually true. So the biggest thing with the keto diet is you will go through a period called the keto flu. Not everybody does, but most people do. And this ends up making you feel like you have the flu, and part of it is the detoxing that your body goes through. You know, things you can do to make this better is work on electrolytes, drink extra water, make sure you have enough energy and you're doing the things you need to do. But that is one of the things that people like the least about the keto diet. And on the keto diet, you cannot have cheat days. Cheat days means that your body no longer is in ketosis. and will no longer be burning that ketones for energy, and your body will go back to carbs. So you actually will end up gaining weight for days after your cheat day, and it takes weeks for you to get back into that ketosis, which happens when you have that decreased amount of carbs. So that's a hard one for people to work on. That's a hard one for people to work through, but if you can actually stick with it, it is super helpful, and a lot of people find it great for weight loss as well as just feeling really healthy. The next one I'm going to talk about is the juicing diet. So it's more of a recent trend when it comes to diets. The aim is to consume 2 fruits and 3 to 4 vegetables per day, and obviously in juice form. The biggest thing is that you have to try to consume things that have all different colors, because every color represents different vitamins, minerals, and nutrients in that food, which is why we always say eat all the colors of the rainbow on your plate. So if you have fruits and vegetables that are all different colors, then you know that you're getting a wide mix of nutrients in there. Nice things about it, easy to make. You just put it in, juice it up, and drink it. Easy on the go meal, and there's a lot of nutrients in it. Some of the cons are that fiber tends to be very low in juicing diets because you take all of the pulp out. So you can solve that by adding a little bit of the pulp in, but still you're going to have a lot less fiber than typical. Then also it's very low in protein, so you typically have to supplement with something else or use a protein powder. Because it's low in fiber and protein, people tend to be very hungry, so it's a hard diet to sustain. And all drinks have to be consumed on the same day that they are made, which is also hard for people. So I think prep time might be quick, but you have to do it consistently. So those are the challenges with the juicing diet, but I think some of the huge pros for it is, everything you're getting is super nutrient and energy packed. Especially important to make sure you're mixing the vegetables and the fruits and not just doing fruit juices, because fruit has a lot of sugar in it. And so if you're having mostly fruit in the juicing, then it's going to end up being high sugar content, and then you'll end up gaining weight. The last diet I'm going to talk about is a vegan vegetarian diet. This one is a little bit closer to my heart because I actually am a vegetarian. Cool things that people don't know about vegetarians is that you can define what vegetarian is for you. So vegetarian typically means that you don't eat any meat at all, which typically includes dairy and eggs and seafood, which a lot of times people will be like, oh, but I know a vegetarian that does eat seafood. Well, I'm a vegetarian and I eat seafood. So that's technically called a pescatarian. So it's a class of vegetarian. We're getting a little complicated, but there's different kinds of vegetarians that you can have seafood, you can have eggs, and you can have dairy. Versus when we look at a vegan diet, that is no animal-based anything. No actual animals or any animal-based products. And oddly enough, this includes honey. Honey is considered an animal byproduct, and they can't have honey. And that's my fun fact about vegans today. But people who eat meat tend to gain a lot more weight and have a lot of external antibiotics that are added to their diet, because what you eat. And so when you eat an animal that has taken antibiotics, the antibiotics are now in your body, and now you have taken antibiotics. And so when you can eliminate the middleman in the food chain, then you can really get to the source of what you're eating and know what you're putting in your mouth and know that it's not been tainted and added by other things. Vegetarians also tend to have lower cholesterol, and they tend to have diets that are lower in saturated fats in general. I think that some of the cons for a vegetarian diet and a vegan diet are, one, it's very easy to slip into a carbitarian diet. That is when you're not eating meat, but you're also not eating vegetables. Because you're not eating meat and it's hard to find things on menus, a lot of times, I've done it myself, you end up defaulting to some of the carb options, pastas, French fries, things like that, because they don't have meat. But then all you're eating is carbs, and you're not actually getting all the vitamins and minerals that the vegetables have to offer you, and the whole point of eating the vegetarian diet. Another big thing that vegetarians and vegans have to watch out for is B12 deficiencies. It can lead to a number of problems, including, most knowingly, anemia, as well as neurological things. And we only pretty much get B12 from meat, and mostly red meat. And so B12 tends to be very low in vegetarians and vegans, and so that has to be properly supplemented and watched. Otherwise, they are at risk for health problems because of that. So those are the basic guidelines, pros and cons of all these diets. The biggest thing that I have to say about this is it's great to have all of this information, but I think the best way to impact your life is by taking all of these diets and looking at the recommendations of foods, and then choosing your foods based on what fits into these diets. Instead of you trying to fit a diet, make a diet that fits you. So, for me, doing one of these diets strictly would be very difficult. So instead, what I do is, when I look at things that I'm going to eat, if I have an option between oils to use, I'll use olive oil, because the Mediterranean diet recommends it, and they find that it's very helpful for health. When I'm looking at different things to eat, I'll go with a fattier fish that has more omega-3s to help with my body. So what I like about these diets is that it gives really good food guidelines and general guidelines for health. And I think that that's the really positive part about it. I also really like these diets because you can look up really good, healthy recipes when you look up recipes from these diets. So that's my biggest suggestion when it comes to this, because, the more you learn about all of these things, there are so many different diets and ways. And the biggest thing is just to implement what's going to work for you, and how to best make that happen. So I know we are getting some questions. My super awesome little sister is here, and she's going to help me. She's writing some questions up for me. So how do you get protein as a vegetarian? Very good question. So nuts and beans are a very easy way to add protein, and I've been starting to just add things like quinoa to everything I eat. There's also, soy and tempeh and all sorts of different things like that you can get as well that adds protein. It is something you definitely have to be aware of, because it is very easy to get low on protein. I've definitely done it myself. So that's definitely one of the challenges of the vegetarian diet, is to make sure that you are getting enough protein. We do sell B12 here at the clinic. We have it in chewable form and capsule form, and it's absorbed really well. So I highly recommend it, especially for any vegetarian or vegan, or anyone that's going through, doing a meal plan or anything like that. And what the cool part about these diets is that you don't have to go through me to do it. These are lifestyle diets, which is why I really wanted to do this talk. You don't have to buy anything from me so that you can do this. These are just things that you can add to your life to help support yourself and your body. The general guidelines of these diets, I would have no problem writing down or typing up and having available, at the clinic for anyone to pick up if they want to use it as guidelines for when they're grocery shopping and whatnot. But I do want to mention that the supplement of the month that we have is the MCT oil, which is a huge support to the body when it's going through the keto diet. It helps extra produce ketones, so it really helps rev up your system when you're trying to do weight loss, especially with the keto diet. But I wanted to pick it as the supplement of the month because it is awesome power for your brain and for your nervous system, as well as your cardiovascular system. It really helps just make you healthy overall with really good fats, and it's highly recommended for anyone to add to their diet. We do have it in liquid and powder form, which makes it very easy to add to a shake or a drink, and you can just get it on the go, because I find that those tend to be the easiest things to add into your life. So make sure you stop in, look at the MCT oil that we have. The supplement of the month, in case you don't know, does mean that it is discounted an extra 10% for the month of January. And I wanted to make sure we had this to help support everybody who is trying to do weight loss things, because it is a great addition to your weight loss program. I am here at the Hometown Chiropractic Clinic in Tomahawk. You can either reach us on Facebook or call the office whenever. And later this month, I am going to do a talk about different colors and various vitamins and minerals that you get from different colors on your plate. Because as I know you've heard me say before, is, you know, when you look at your plate of food, the most important thing is to make sure you're seeing the colors of the rainbow, because the more colors you have, the more nutrients you're getting. I hope that everyone has a great night, and I just want everyone to be successful. If you have any questions about weight loss or health options, I would love to hear more about it. So make sure you reach out and let me know what your thoughts are.